Millionaire hires a waitress as fake wife to save fortune, but she refuses him on wedding night. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The ballroom of the Waldorf Hotel glittered under 1,000 chandeliers. Gold and crystal everywhere, cameras flashing like lightning. It was the annual Harrington family gala, and every shareholder was watching. At the center of the noise stood Ethan Harrington, 32, sharp suit, sharper glare. A millionaire by inheritance, a businessman by survival. His grandfather's health was failing, and without a wife by his side, the board was threatening to cut him out of the family fortune. Bring a wife, they had told him, or bring shame. He raised his glass with practiced indifference, but inside, the pressure was crushing. Every eye expected a perfect bride. Every whisper cut like a knife. Then his gaze landed on a girl weaving between tables, balancing champagne flutes on a silver tray. Her name was Clara Torres, 26, a waitress working double shifts just to cover her mother's hospital bills. Hair pinned back hastily, shoes worn at the edges. She wasn't supposed to be here, not in his world. Ethan's jaw tightened. Desperation had turned ruthless. She'll do. He stepped into her path. The tray trembled in her hands. Champagne rippled dangerously. Put that down, he ordered, voice low enough for only her to hear. She blinked, startled. Excuse me? You're coming with me. The command hit like ice water. Around them, the music swelled, laughter echoed, no one noticing the storm between a millionaire and a waitress. Clara shook her head, whispering back. Sir, I'm working. Not anymore, he cut in. His eyes glinted, cold and cornered. Starting tonight, you're my wife. Her breath caught. She nearly dropped the tray. What? Smile, he muttered, sliding an arm around her waist before she could protest. Because the cameras are already watching. The flashbulbs went off like fireworks. To the world, it looked like a romantic entrance. To Clara, it felt like being dragged into a fire. Inside her chest, her heart hammered. Why me? Why now? She managed a stiff smile, whispering between her teeth, You're insane. Maybe, Ethan replied, lips barely moving. But tonight, you're mine. And if you want to walk away with more than your paycheck, you'll play along. Clara's fingers clenched the tray until her knuckles turned white. She had dreamed of a better life, yes, but not like this. Not under a chandelier with strangers staring. Not trapped against a millionaire's side like a pawn in his war. Yet her mother's face flickered in her mind. The unpaid bills. The endless nights. Fine, she breathed, eyes blazing. But on one condition. Ethan turned to her, brow furrowing, ready to sneer. And that was the moment when the music dipped, when the whispers swelled, when the entire ballroom seemed to freeze. That she said something that would change everything. The ballroom music dipped into a softer tune, violins filling the silence like a secret nobody wanted to say out loud. Ethan's grip on Clara's waist tightened, his jaw locked. What condition? He murmured, eyes fixed forward, smile frozen for the cameras. Clara tilted her chin, whisper sharp. No touching. No pretending beyond what's necessary. This is your lie, not mine. He chuckled under his breath, the kind of laugh that cut instead of warmed. You think you can set rules, waitress? I just did. Her voice didn't shake, though her knees nearly buckled under the chandelier's glare. A nearby guest raised a glass. Mr. Harrington, finally bringing someone to the gala. Laughter rippled, shallow and curious. Ethan's smile widened for the crowd, but his words sliced low. Play your part, Clara, or you'll regret it. She forced her lips into a curve that looked like a smile but tasted like poison. For Mom. For the bills. Just survived tonight. The whispers started immediately. Who is she? Not from our circle, that's for sure. Look at that dress clearly borrowed. Clara felt the weight of their stares, as if the crystal chandeliers were spotlights aimed straight at her flaws. Still, she stood taller, spine stiff. One woman in a shimmering emerald gown stepped forward, glass in hand. Meredith Langford. Heiress. Ethan's almost fiancée. Ethan, Meredith purred, eyes sliding toward Clara like a blade. Aren't you going to introduce your date? His lips barely moved. Clara Torres, my wife. The word hit Clara harder than champagne bubbles. Wife. Not fake, not temporary. Wife. The entire room went still for a heartbeat before exploding with murmurs. Meredith's smile sharpened. A waitress? She said. Just loud enough for the closest tables. How original. Clara met her gaze without flinching. Better original than predictable. Gasps fluttered through the crowd. Ethan's eyebrow arched, caught between irritation and amusement. For the first time in months, someone had spoken back to Meredith Langford. The evening spiraled like a dance Clara didn't know the steps to. Ethan guided her from table to table, shaking hands, making introductions. She followed, chin high, heart racing. Behind every smile, she whispered conditions. No kissing. No pet names. No staying at your place tonight. Each one made Ethan's smirk tighten, made his grip more deliberate. But he didn't argue. Not yet. Later, under the golden arch of the ballroom entrance, Ethan pulled her aside. The music dulled, the air heavy with roses and cologne. You're reckless, he said. That little jab at Meredith? You've just made an enemy you can't afford. Clara crossed her arms, tray long gone, posture steady. Enemies don't scare me. Debt collectors do. Medical bills do. You don't. Something in his chest shifted, a flicker he quickly buried. He leaned closer. Lips barely an inch from her ear. Careful, Clara. You're starting to sound like you belong here. Her pulse thundered, but she didn't look away. I don't. And I don't want to. The night dragged until the speeches ended, until the champagne was flat and the crowd dissolved into limousines. Finally, the grand doors closed, leaving only echoes and the faint scent of spilled wine. Ethan loosened his tie, fatigue etching shadows beneath his eyes. Car's waiting, he said. Clara hesitated, then followed him through the marble hall, her heels clicking like defiance against the polished floor. Back at his penthouse, the city glittered beyond glass walls, a place too clean, too perfect, where silence had weight. Clara stood at the threshold, arms folded. So, this is it? The castle where the lonely king hides. He shot her a look, but didn't rise to the bait. Guest rooms down the hall. Relief softened her shoulders. Good. Because, whatever you expect. I expect nothing, Ethan cut in. This is business, nothing more. She studied him, searching for cracks. His profile was stone. His eyes were winter. But beneath the surface, she saw something fragile. Hours later, the clock struck midnight. The city hummed below, lights flickering like restless stars. Clara sat on the edge of the guest bed, still in the borrowed dress, staring at her reflection in the vanity mirror. What have I done? In another room, Ethan poured whiskey into crystal, the silence pressing in. He replayed her words, her defiance. No one had ever dared to dictate terms to him. And yet, he hadn't stopped her. His fist tightened around the glass. Why her? Why tonight? The door creaked. Clara appeared in the doorway, barefoot now, eyes tired but fierce. I want to make this clear, she said. Wedding night or not, I refuse. No games, no lies. I won't give you what you're really after. Ethan froze, the amber glass halfway to his lips. Her voice didn't waver. You hired me to play your wife. That's all you'll ever get. The silence between them was heavier than the skyscrapers outside. Ethan's hand lowered. His chest burned with something he couldn't name. Anger, pride, maybe even a flicker of shame. And for the first time in years, the millionaire realized someone had told him no. The silence lingered long after Clara's words. Ethan stood by the glass wall, whiskey untouched, the city's neon glow cutting sharp lines across his face. She had refused him. Not with hesitation, but with fire. Clara crossed her arms, steadying herself against the weight of the room. I don't care about your fortune, Ethan. I don't care about your board, your family, or your empire. I came here because I needed the money. That's it. But don't ever think you can own me. Her voice carried like thunder in the quiet penthouse. Ethan's jaw flexed. He'd been told no in business, yes. By rivals, competitors. But never in his own home. Never by someone he thought he controlled. He set the glass down, slow, deliberate. You're bold for someone wearing a borrowed dress. Oh, Clara's eyes didn't flinch. Maybe. But at least I can sleep tonight without selling my soul. The word stung more than he wanted to admit. His chest tightened. He looked away first. The next morning, headlines exploded. Who is Ethan Harrington's mystery wife? From Waitress to Millionaire's bride scandal or love story. Photos from the gala splashed across every paper. Ethan's arm wrapped around Clara's waist. Clara's defiant smile beneath chandeliers. The internet had already chosen sides. Gold digger. Smart girl. She doesn't belong with him. Clara scrolled on her cracked phone in the guest room, stomach twisting. The world was dissecting her life like she was a circus act. When she stepped out, Ethan was already on the phone, pacing the marble floor. His voice was sharp, commanding. Damage control. No leaks. No comments until I say so. He hung up, eyes landing on her. Congratulations, you're famous. Clara shot back. Infamous. Hours later, at Harrington Enterprises boardroom, things turned worse. 12 men in suits. A long glass table. Ethan at the head, Clara by his side like a prop he didn't want but couldn't avoid. One director sneered openly. A waitress? That's your grand plan to stabilize the family name? Another muttered. Our stock dropped 3% overnight. Investors are questioning your judgment. Clara's cheeks burned. The stares pierced deeper than the chandeliers ever could. She wanted to vanish, to sink into the floor. But she forced her chin up, refusing to cower. Ethan tapped the table once. Hard. Enough. She is my wife, and anyone who has an issue can take it up with me. His words froze the room. Clara blinked, stunned. For a moment, it almost sounded real. But then his hand tightened around her chair, and she realized it wasn't protection. It was possession. Later that evening, as they left the building, paparazzi swarmed the street. Cameras flashing, voices shouting. Clara, did you marry for money? Ethan, is she really just a waitress? Are you in love, or is this all a contract? Clara shielded her face, heart pounding. Ethan's arm held firm, guiding her through the chaos. But inside, she felt trapped, suffocating in a lie she never wanted. Back in the car, silence pressed between them. Finally, Clara whispered, "This isn't survival anymore. This is a cage." Ethan looked at her, really looked this time. For the first time since the gala, he saw not a pawn, not a contract, but a woman fighting to keep her dignity in a world built to crush her. His throat tightened, but pride locked his words. He said nothing, and Clara turned away, staring out at the glittering city, wondering how much longer she could play the role of a wife she never chose. The city never slept, and neither did the gossip. By the next morning, Clara's face was on every magazine stand. Her photo plastered online, dissected in headlines she couldn't bear to read. From Waitress to Millionaire's bride, Cinderella or con artist. The woman who stole Ethan Harrington's fortune. She tossed the paper aside, pulse racing. I didn't steal anything, she whispered to herself. But the world didn't care about truth, it cared about scandal. Downstairs, Ethan barked into his phone. I said no interviews. I don't care if it's the Times or a blog. Shut it down. Clara stood at the edge of the room, arms folded. Maybe if you told them the truth. He spun, eyes like daggers. The truth? That I dragged a waitress into a fake marriage to appease the board? That's the story you want out there? Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream that this was his mess, not hers. But instead, she bit her lip, holding back the flood. That afternoon, Ethan dragged her into yet another board luncheon. Crystal glasses, polished cutlery, men in suits pretending to smile. One of them leaned toward Clara, voice dripping condescension. Tell us, Mrs. Harrington, how exactly did you meet your husband? Serving drinks? Cleaning tables? Laughter rippled across the table. Clara's cheeks flushed, but she kept her voice steady. Yes, I was working. Something you wouldn't understand. The laughter cut short. Ethan's eyes flickered, surprised. Clara continued, heart pounding. And unlike you, I don't need a title or a bank account to know my worth. The room went still. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Even Ethan's smirk faltered. Later, in the car, silence hung heavy. Finally, Ethan muttered, You didn't have to do that. Clara turned, fire in her gaze. Didn't have to stand up for myself? Didn't have to remind them I'm a person, not your accessory? His jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, but the image of her, chin lifted, words cutting through smug laughter, stayed with him. For the first time, Ethan wondered if Clara was stronger than the empire he was fighting to keep. But strength had a price. By evening, paparazzi photos flooded the internet. Clara at the board luncheon, eyes blazing, mouth mid-sentence. The captions were merciless. Waitress wife talks back. Clara Torres, out of place and out of control. When she saw the headlines, Clara's chest ached. She had spoken the truth, and the world twisted it into mockery. She slammed the laptop shut. I can't win. No matter what I say, they'll use it against me. Oh. Ethan watched her from across the room, something flickering in his eyes. Regret? Maybe. But he swallowed it down, too proud to admit. That night, under the city's cold glow, Clara stood on the balcony, wind whipping through her hair. She whispered into the dark, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should walk away. Behind her, Ethan appeared in the doorway, glass in hand. Walk away, and the wolves will tear you apart. She turned, fury burning. And staying with you isn't any different. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them, raw, sharp, impossible. Then Ethan said, softer than he meant, you're not as easy to break as I thought. Clara's breath caught. Not a compliment. Not quite an insult. Something in between. Inside, her phone buzzed with a new notification. A leaked photo. A headline bigger than all the rest. Exclusive. Clara Torres, mother hospitalized. Is Harrington bride hiding a secret? Her blood ran cold. She grabbed the phone, hands shaking. They dragged my mom into this? Ethan's eyes darkened. He stepped closer, jaw like steel. Who leaked this? Clara's heart pounded. Shame, anger, fear, everything tangled at once. Her mother was fragile, private, innocent, and now the world had put her under a microscope. Clara's voice cracked. If they touch her, if they hurt her, I swear, Ethan, I'll burn this whole lie down. The glass in Ethan's hand shattered against the floor. His voice was low, lethal. Then we find out who's behind this, and we end it. The headline spread faster than wildfire. Clara's mother, her most vulnerable secret, was now plastered across tabloids. Hospital photos, invasive speculation, cruel comments. Clara's hands shook as she clutched her phone. They had no right. She has nothing to do with this. Ethan's eyes burned. This isn't just gossip anymore. Someone's orchestrating this. Clara spun on him, fury in her chest. And who gave them the ammunition, Ethan? Who dragged me into your world in the first place? His jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. Because she was right. The next day, Clara tried to visit her mother at the hospital. Paparazzi swarmed outside like vultures, cameras flashing, microphones shoved into her face. Clara, did Ethan pay for her treatment? Are you using his money to save her? Was this your plan all along? Her chest tightened. She tried to push through, but a reporter grabbed her arm. Before she could react, a black SUV pulled up, and Ethan stepped out, expression thunderous. He shoved the cameras back with his security team, pulling Clara into the car. Are you insane? She snapped, breath ragged. They don't care about me anymore. They're hunting my mom. Ethan's voice was low, lethal. Then I'll make them stop. At Harrington Enterprises, the board was less sympathetic. One director slid a newspaper across the table, Clara's mother on the cover. This distraction is costing us millions. Investors are nervous. If you can't control your wife, Ethan, we will. Clara froze at the word, control, as if she were property. Ethan's hands curled into fists. She's not the problem, the director sneered. She's the problem. A waitress in our world? She'll never fit. End it before the damage is permanent. Clara's chest tightened. She wanted to scream, but Ethan's glare silenced the room. Still, their message was clear. Choose Clara, or choose the empire. That night, tension crackled in the penthouse like a storm. Clara paced, arms folded. They're right, I don't belong here. Ethan watched her, glass of whiskey untouched. You stood up to them. You belong more than they ever will. She blinked, startled. That almost sounded like respect. He gave a half-smirk, half-grimace. Don't get used to it. But the truth hung between them. He did respect her. Her fire, her defiance. The way she refused to bow even when the world crushed her. Then came the knock at the door. Loud, demanding. When Ethan opened it, Meredith Langford stood there. Emerald gown traded for sharp black, eyes glinting with triumph. "Still playing house with your waitress, Ethan?" she drawled. "Because if you're ready to end the charade, my family is more than willing to. Clean up your mess." Clara stepped into view, chin high. "Funny, I didn't realize snakes delivered offers personally." Meredith's smile sharpened. "Careful, darling. You may have his name for now, but women like you never last. You'll be discarded, forgotten, replaced." Clara's hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "Maybe. But at least I won't spend my life crawling after someone else's fortune." The insult landed. Meredith's face stiffened, then curved into a cruel smile. "We'll see how long you last when the world finds out the rest of your secrets." She swept out, perfume lingering like poison. Clara turned to Ethan, chest heaving. "She knows something. She's behind this." Ethan's eyes narrowed, ice cold. "Then she's declared war." Later, Clara stood alone on the balcony, city lights flickering below. For the first time, doubt gnawed deep. She had entered this lie for money, for survival. But now her mother was exposed, her dignity shredded, her life spiraling. Ethan joined her, quiet for once. "You could walk away," he said finally. "No one would blame you." She turned, tears unshed but eyes fierce. "If I walk away, they win. If I stay, my mom suffers." "Tell me, Ethan, where's the choice in that?" His throat tightened. He wanted to promise protection, to promise anything. But promises were weapons in his world, and he wasn't sure he could keep one. Instead, he whispered, "Then we fight back, together." For the first time, Clara didn't hear arrogance. She heard something dangerously close to sincerity. But the next morning, before dawn broke, a new headline dropped. Exclusive. Harrington's waitress wife was paid to marry him. And this time, the evidence pointed straight to her. The headline was everywhere by sunrise. Exclusive. Harrington's waitress wife was paid to marry him. Fake love, real money, Clara Torres exposed. Photos of Clara leaving Ethan's penthouse. Bank statements, grainy screenshots, whispers of proof. It didn't matter if the documents were forged. To the world, she was guilty. Clara's phone buzzed nonstop with messages she couldn't bear to read. Gold digger, fraud, liar. Her chest tightened as she sank onto the edge of the bed. "They think I sold myself," she whispered. Ethan stood across the room, jaw hard, phone pressed to his ear. "Find out who leaked this," he barked. "I want names now." But Clara barely heard him. All she heard were the lies echoing louder than truth. By noon, the story had spread to every news outlet. Television screens in restaurants, subway ads, even hospital waiting rooms carried her face. At the hospital, her mother clutched Clara's hand with trembling fingers. "Mija, tell me it isn't true." Clara's throat burned. "It's not, I swear, Mom. But they won't believe me." Her mother's eyes softened with sorrow. The truth doesn't matter to them. Only the story. Tears stung Clara's eyes as flashes exploded outside the hospital windows. Reporters had already tracked her down. Back at Harrington Enterprises, the boardroom was brutal. "Do you see now?" A director sneered, slamming the newspaper onto the table. "She's ruining you, ruining us. The shareholders demand her removal." "Removal?" Ethan's voice cut like glass. "She's my wife, not an employee." The director leaned forward. "Then act like a CEO, not a lovesick fool. End this marriage, Ethan, or you'll take us all down with you." The words hung like a sentence. Clara sat silently at his side, nails digging into her palm. She wasn't even worth defending in their eyes, just a liability. When the meeting ended, Ethan stormed out, fury radiating off him. Clara hurried to keep up. "You heard them," she said. "They want me gone." His steps faltered. He turned, eyes burning. "Let them want. I don't bend to their demands." She stared at him, shocked. "You'd risk everything? For a fake marriage?" Something flickered in his gaze. Maybe it's not so fake anymore. Clara's breath caught. But before she could respond, his phone buzzed. A new message. A new threat. He read it, face hardening. "Meredith. She's behind this. She has the documents." Clara's stomach dropped. "Then she won't stop until I'm destroyed." That night, Ethan brought Clara to a gala meant to calm investors. The chandeliers sparkled, the champagne flowed, but the whispers were venom. There she is. Bought and paid for. Pathetic. Clara walked beside Ethan, every step heavy, but her chin high. If she bowed now, they'd win. At one table, a woman sneered openly. "Tell us, Clara, how much did he pay you to wear that dress tonight?" Laughter erupted. Cameras clicked. Clara froze, humiliation burning. But before she could answer, Ethan's voice cut through the noise. She didn't take a cent. His tone was lethal, daring anyone to argue. "If anyone doubts her, they can answer to me." The laughter died instantly. The room stilled. Clara blinked, stunned. For the first time, Ethan had defended her publicly. But the damage was already done. Later in the car, Clara whispered, "You shouldn't have done that." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "Because now they'll come after me harder. They don't want to see me stand. They want to see me fall." He looked at her, really looked, and for a moment, the arrogance dropped. "Then let them come. You're stronger than all of them." Her chest tightened at the words. Not pity, not contempt, respect. But just as hope flickered, Clara's phone buzzed with a new message. She opened it and froze. It was a photo of her mother in the hospital, attached to a threat. "Leave Ethan, or she pays the price." Clara's hands trembled, phone slipping from her grasp. She looked at Ethan, voice breaking. "They're going after my mom. If I don't walk away, she's next." Ethan's face turned to stone. His voice dropped to a promise sharper than steel. "Then we stop playing games, and we take them down." Clara's fingers trembled as the message glowed on her screen. A photo of her mother in the hospital bed, pale and fragile. Beneath it, the words, "Leave Ethan, or she pays the price." Her breath hitched. She nearly dropped the phone. Ethan took one glance at the screen, fury igniting in his eyes. "They're threatening her now." His voice was low, dangerous. Meredith's crossed the line, but Clara's chest tightened, fear wrapping around her lungs. "This isn't about business anymore, Ethan. This is my mom. They'll hurt her just to get to you." "Mo." He stepped closer, determination radiating off him. "Then we fight back." Clara shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "You don't understand. They don't care about your empire. They care about destroying me. And the only way to stop it is if I walk away." The next morning, Clara sat by her mother's bedside, phone off, heart heavy. She brushed back a strand of gray hair from her mother's face. Her mom stirred, whispering, "Mija, are you okay?" Clara forced a smile. "I'm fine, don't worry about me." But her mother's eyes, weak but sharp, saw through her. "They want to break you. Don't let them. You're stronger than you think." Clara swallowed hard, blinking away tears. She wanted to believe it, but with cameras waiting outside the hospital, with Meredith pulling strings in the shadows, she felt anything but strong. That evening, Ethan called her to the penthouse balcony. The city glowed beneath them, restless and unforgiving. "You can't give in to them," he said firmly. Clara wrapped her arms around herself. "And what happens if I don't? My mom's the one who suffers. Not you, not me, her." His chest rose and fell, sharp with frustration. "You think leaving me will protect her?" Meredith doesn't stop. Once she smells blood, she keeps going until there's nothing left. Clara's voice cracked. "Then what am I supposed to do?" For the first time, Ethan didn't have an answer. His silence cut deeper than words. The pressure only grew. Tabloids printed new accusations daily. Clara Torres, con artist, hospitalized mother, used for sympathy. Her face was everywhere, painted as a villain. At Harrington Enterprises, directors whispered openly, "She's a liability. He'll lose everything." And outside the penthouse, protesters even gathered, holding signs that read, "Send the gold digger home." Clara stood behind the glass wall, staring at the crowd below, chest tight. "I can't do this anymore." "Oh." Ethan's hand touched the glass beside hers. His reflection flickered next to hers in the city light. "Yes, you can. With me." She turned, eyes wet, voice trembling. "Why? Why fight for me when everyone else wants me gone?" His throat worked, words heavy. "Because you're the first person who's ever told me no, and I needed that more than I realized." Clara froze. His voice wasn't arrogant, it wasn't cold. For once, it was real. But reality hit harder than confessions. That night, another envelope slid under the penthouse door. No signature, no return address. Inside, photos of Clara's mother. Tubes, machines, vulnerable, and a note. End it, or she won't wake up. Clara's knees buckled. She clutched the photos, sobs tearing through her chest. I can't risk her life, Ethan. I can't. Ethan knelt beside her, voice raw. Clara, listen to me. This isn't your fault. Don't let them control you. She shook her head, breaking. I don't have a choice. The next morning, she made her decision. When Ethan came down the stairs, he found Clara with her suitcase by the door. Her eyes were swollen, but her jaw was set. I'm leaving. His chest seized. Number, don't do this. She lifted her gaze to him, voice cracking but steady. If this lie keeps my mom in danger, then it's not worth it. I won't let her pay the price for your world. Ethan's throat tightened, his empire, his pride, his heart all slipping through his fingers. Clara. She cut him off, tears falling. Goodbye, Ethan. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in his life, Ethan Harrington, the man who never bowed, never broke, stood alone, realizing he had just lost the one person who wasn't afraid to stand against him. The echo of the door closing lingered longer than it should have. Ethan stood frozen in the penthouse foyer, her suitcase rolling wheels fading into silence. For a man who had built empires, lost deals, and faced boardrooms without flinching, this was different. He had just lost Clara. He reached for his glass of whiskey, but even that didn't numb the ache clawing inside his chest. She's just a waitress. Just a contract. But the words rang hollow now. Meanwhile, Clara dragged her suitcase down a cracked sidewalk, far from the penthouse's glittering skyline. Paparazzi cameras flashed as she kept her head down, sunglasses barely hiding swollen eyes. One voice shouted, Clara, how much did he pay you to leave? Another, did the deal expire? Her jaw clenched, heart pounding. Every step felt heavier, but she didn't stop. Not until she reached a small motel at the edge of the city. Cheap, quiet, anonymous. She sank onto the bed, face buried in her hands. For the first time since it all began, she let herself cry. The tabloids exploded the next morning. Clara Torres abandons Harrington, marriage proof it was all fake. From penthouse to motel, waitress wife falls from grace. On talk shows, polished anchors debated her downfall. On social media, strangers mocked her, dissected her, turned her into a meme. At Harrington Enterprises, the board pounced. This is the end, one director snapped. The marriage is a sham, the scandal uncontainable. Investors want your resignation. Ethan's eyes burned as he leaned forward. I don't step down. Then you'll drag us all down with you, another warned. The pressure was suffocating. But beneath the anger, Ethan felt something deeper, a void only one person had left behind. That evening, alone in his penthouse, Ethan wandered through rooms that suddenly felt too large, too empty. The couch where Clara had once curled up, the balcony where her voice had cut the night air, even the guest room that still smelled faintly of her perfume. He clenched his fists. Why can't I shake her? For years, he had dismissed people like disposable contracts. But Clara wasn't disposable. She had walked away, and with her, she had taken the last piece of himself he didn't know he still had. Across town, Clara visited her mother quietly at night, slipping past cameras. She held her hand, whispering, I'll fix this, Mom. I promise. Her mother's voice was faint but steady. Don't lose yourself trying to fix him. Clara swallowed hard, because deep down, she knew she hadn't just been fighting Ethan's battles, she had been falling for him, even when she swore she wouldn't. Days later, another blow struck. A leaked video hit the internet, grainy footage of Clara leaving the penthouse with her suitcase, Ethan standing in the doorway, silent. The captions were brutal. Gold digger exposed. She took the money and ran. The world didn't see tears, didn't hear the truth. They only saw what Meredith wanted them to see. Clara threw her phone onto the motel bed, frustration boiling. They've turned me into a villain I never was. Back at the penthouse, Ethan saw the same video replayed on every screen. Each replay twisted the knife deeper. Because he remembered that night differently, her eyes wet, her voice breaking as she said goodbye. He poured another drink but set it down untouched. For once, alcohol didn't numb the truth. He missed her. 2 nights later, Ethan showed up at the motel. Security had tracked her location, but this wasn't about control. He stood at the door, unsure for the first time in years. When Clara opened it, shock flickered across her face, quickly replaced by steel. "What are you doing here?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I shouldn't have let you walk away." She folded her arms. "You didn't let me. I chose it." Her words cut deep, but he nodded. "You're right, and I can't change what's happened, but I can protect you now." Her laugh was sharp, bitter. "Protect me? You can't even protect yourself." He flinched, but he didn't leave. "Clara, I don't care about the board, or the money, or the empire. Not anymore. Her phone buzzed in that moment. She glanced down, and her face drained of color. Another message. Another threat. This time, it wasn't just her mother. It was a photo of Ethan himself. Crosshairs aimed at his back. The motel room went silent. Clara's phone shook in her hand as she stared at the photo. Ethan's back, captured from a distance, a red crosshair glowing over his heart. She whispered, voice breaking, "It's not just my mom anymore, it's you." Ethan took the phone from her, eyes narrowing, jaw tight. For years, he'd faced ruthless competitors. But this was different. This wasn't a negotiation. This was war. "They're watching me," he muttered, "which means they're closer than we thought." Clara's chest tightened. "Ethan, this isn't about your fortune anymore. They want you destroyed, dead." For the first time, fear flickered across his face, not for himself, but for her standing so close. She grabbed her suitcase. "I need to leave. If I stay near you, they'll use me to get to you again." Ethan caught her wrist, his voice raw. "Running won't save you, or your mom. They won't stop until they win." Clara pulled away, tears stinging. "And what if their way of winning is putting you in a coffin?" "What then, Ethan? What am I supposed to do?" His silence was heavy. For once, the man with every answer had none. The next morning, the story hit the press again. A mysterious threat against Ethan Harrington leaked anonymously online. Stock prices dipped further. Investors panicked. Reporters crowded outside his office. "Mr. Harrington, are you in danger? Clara, is this tied to your marriage scandal?" Flashes blinded them as security shoved the crowd back. But Clara heard the whispers. She brought this to him. She's his curse. Inside the car, she pressed her hands to her face. "They'll blame me for this too." Ethan glanced at her, voice hard but quiet. "Let them blame you. I know the truth." Her head snapped up. "That's not enough, Ethan. Knowing isn't enough. They're tearing us apart piece by piece, and we're just standing here." Back at the penthouse, Ethan gathered files, contracts, evidence of Meredith's schemes. "She wants my fortune. She wants the company, and she thinks she can use you as leverage." Clara paced the floor, heart racing. "And she's winning." His gaze locked on hers, steel in his eyes. "Not if we fight back." Her laugh was bitter. "Fight back? I'm a waitress, Ethan. I don't have your money, your power, your boardroom strategies. All I have is a mother who's suffering because of me." "No." Ethan stepped closer, voice low, almost pleading. "What you have is more valuable than any of that. You don't play their game. You stand up even when it hurts. You're the only one who's not afraid to tell me the truth." Clara's throat tightened. For a moment, the walls between them cracked, but then another envelope arrived, slid under the penthouse door. No stamp, no signature, just like before. Inside another photo, this time, of Ethan and Clara together at the gala. Except this one was doctored. Ethan's face scratched out, Clara's circled in red. The note read, "One of you won't survive this. Choose." Clara's breath caught, the paper trembling in her hands. "They want me to choose between us." Ethan ripped the note in half, fury boiling. "I won't let them touch you." Clara shook her head, voice raw. "You don't get it. If I stay, they'll keep coming after my mom, after you, after anyone near us. But if I leave," her voice broke, "maybe they'll stop." Ethan's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to lock her inside, to never let her out of his sight. But he saw the fear in her eyes, and the sacrifice she was already preparing to make. That night, Clara packed her bag again. She stood by the door, tears streaking her face. Ethan stood across the room, fists clenched. "Don't do this. Not again." Clara's voice trembled. "If staying with you means signing your death sentence, then leaving is the only way I can protect you." His chest ached like fire. For years, he had believed money protected him, power protected him. But standing there, watching her slip away, he realized none of it mattered. He whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "What about me, Clara? Who protects me from losing you?" Her hand froze on the door handle, but before she could answer, glass shattered somewhere in the penthouse. Both of them spun around. A red laser beam cut through the darkness, landing squarely on Ethan's chest. The red dot pulsed on Ethan's chest. Clara's breath caught, her body frozen in terror. Then glass exploded. A bullet ripped through the penthouse window, whistling past Ethan's shoulder and burying itself in the marble wall. "Down!" Ethan shouted, lunging at Clara, dragging her to the floor. Shards of glass rained around them. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Another shot cracked through the night. Security stormed the room seconds too late, radios blaring. "Shooter on the adjacent rooftop." Clara clutched Ethan's arm, eyes wide. They weren't bluffing. "They want you dead." Ethan's jaw clenched, fury blazing. "Number they want to break us. Tonight, they failed." But Clara's voice shook. "Next time, they won't." They were rushed to a safe house outside the city, a place with steel doors, bulletproof glass, guards on every corner. But no matter how secure the walls, Clara couldn't shake the image of that red laser against Ethan's chest. She paced the room, hugging herself. "This isn't just a scandal anymore. This is attempted murder." Ethan watched her, leaning against the wall. "Which means we're getting close. Whoever's behind this is desperate." Her eyes snapped to his. "Close? Ethan, you almost died. Does that mean nothing to you?" His voice was steady, but his hands were fists at his sides. "It means they're scared, and I don't back down when my enemies get scared." Clara shook her head, tears threatening. "You're not invincible. You think you are, but you're not." For a long moment, silence stretched. Then Ethan stepped forward, his voice softer. "I know that now." The next day, the press spun the attack into more chaos. Assassination attempt on Ethan Harrington linked to Waitress wife? Clara Torres brings violence into Billionaire's world. Clara slammed the newspaper shut, frustration boiling. "They'll blame me for this too. Everything is my fault." Ethan grabbed the paper, ripping it in half. "Number, this is Meredith. She's pulling every string." But Clara's voice cracked. "Meredith didn't pull that trigger. Someone else did. And if they miss this time, they won't miss again." That night, in the safe house, Ethan found her sitting alone on the sofa, staring at her phone. The photo of her mother on the hospital bed was still on the screen. "She's fragile, Ethan," Clara whispered. "If they could get close enough to shoot at you, what's stopping them from hurting her?" He sat down beside her, close but not touching. "Then we bring her here, under protection." Clara turned, shaking her head. "Number, she can't survive this chaos. She needs peace, not bodyguards and bullets." Her eyes filled with tears. "Maybe the only way to end this is for me to disappear." Ethan's chest tightened. "Number, don't say that." She looked at him, broken but defiant. "If it keeps you alive, if it keeps her alive, it's worth it." His hand hovered, then finally rested over hers. His voice dropped, raw. "Clara, you leaving doesn't save me. It destroys me." Before she could answer, the lights flickered. A sudden blackout swept through the safe house. The guards shouted orders. Radios crackled with static. Ethan pulled Clara close, instincts sharp. "Stay with me." A heavy thud echoed outside the door. Then another, metal groaning under force. Clara's pulse raced. "They found us." The door shook violently, hinges straining. The guards scrambled to block it, but the pounding grew louder, faster. Clara's hand clutched Ethan's arm, nails digging into his skin. "Ethan." The final crash split the steel door open, and a masked figure stepped through, weapon raised, aimed not at Ethan this time, but at Clara. The masked figure's weapon leveled directly at Clara's chest. Time seemed to stop. Her breath caught, frozen in place. Ethan's instincts kicked in, he lunged. dragging Clara behind him. The shot cracked, deafening, splintering the wood frame of the wall inches from her head. Guards shouted, returning fire. Chaos erupted in the safe house as bullets tore through the air. Ethan shielded Clara with his body, pushing her toward cover. "Move!" he roared. But Clara's legs wouldn't obey. Her mind screamed, "They want me, not him. If I run, he dies." Another guard tackled the intruder, wrestling for control. The gun clattered across the floor, skidding right to Clara's feet. Her hands shook as she stared at it. Cold metal, heavy, deadly. "Clara!" Ethan's voice thundered. "Pick it up!" Her chest heaved. She had never held a gun in her life. She was a waitress, not a soldier. But in that moment, survival demanded she become something else. She bent, fingers curling around the weapon. The masked attacker broke free, charging again. Clara raised the gun with trembling arms, aiming straight at him. Don't move," she stammered, voice cracking. For a split second, the intruder hesitated. Then he lunged. Clara squeezed the trigger. The blast echoed like thunder. The attacker staggered back, clutching his shoulder, before security swarmed and dragged him down. Clara stood frozen, the gun slipping from her hands, crashing to the floor. Her ears rang. Her body trembled violently. I shot him," she whispered. Ethan was at her side in seconds, gripping her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You saved us. Do you hear me? You saved us." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm not like you, Ethan. I can't." His voice softened, steady but fierce. "You're stronger than me, because you had the courage to do what I couldn't." Minutes later, the intruder was dragged out, bleeding but alive. Guards reported he wasn't alone. Others had been spotted circling the safe house perimeter. "This was coordinated," one guard said grimly. "They wanted her, not you." Clara's stomach dropped. "They're after me now?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "Then they'll have to go through me first." But Clara shook her head, voice breaking. "Don't you see? As long as I'm here, they'll keep coming. You'll never be safe. Your empire will never be safe." He grabbed her hand, refusing to let go. "Then let it burn. None of it matters if you're not here." Her heart twisted. She wanted to believe him, wanted to stay. But outside those walls, enemies multiplied. And inside, her very presence painted a target on his back. Later that night, Clara sat alone, staring at her reflection in the safe house mirror. Pale, shaken, not the girl she used to be, not the waitress hustling tables to pay hospital bills. Her whisper cracked in the empty room. "Who am I becoming?" Behind her, Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Someone who refuses to break, and that terrifies them." Clara turned, eyes wet. "But it terrifies me too." He stepped closer, reaching for her hand. "Then let me carry that fear with you." For the first time, there was no arrogance in his tone, only sincerity. But peace was short-lived. Before dawn, another message arrived, delivered straight to the safe house gate, bypassing guards. A photo. Clara again. This time, doctored to show her holding the gun from earlier, captioned, "Murderess in disguise. Next headline coming soon." Clara's blood ran cold. "They're twisting everything. They'll make me the villain for saving us." Ethan's face darkened with fury. I won't let them." But Clara's heart pounded. If the world believed this lie, not only her reputation but her freedom was next. And she realized, with dread, that her fight wasn't just against whispers anymore. It was against handcuffs. The photo was everywhere within hours. Waitress wife turns gunwoman. Clara Torres shoots intruder in Harrington safe house, cold blood or self-defense. Talk shows replayed the image again and again. Clara's pale face, gun clutched in her trembling hands. Except the truth was stripped away. In their version, there was no attacker, no chaos. Just a young woman pointing a weapon, guilty as sin. By morning, police cars lined up outside the safe house. A detective in a gray suit stepped forward, voice firm. "We need to bring Miss Torres in for questioning." Clara's heart sank. "Questioning?" Ethan stepped between them instantly. "She's not leaving this house without me." The detective's expression didn't flinch. "Then come along, both of you." At the station, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Cameras clicked as Clara was escorted inside. Reporters shouting accusations. "Clara, did you plan the shooting?" Was the marriage a cover for something darker? Are you a fraud and a killer? Her chest tightened, each word slicing deeper. She wanted to scream the truth. Instead, she lowered her head, enduring their judgment. Inside the interrogation room, a recorder clicked on. "Miss Torres," the detective began, sliding the doctored photo across the table. "Can you explain this?" Clara's fingers shook as she pushed it back. "That's not the whole story. He broke into the safe house. He had a gun. He was going to kill us. And yet," the detective countered, "you pulled the trigger." Her throat tightened. "Because I had no choice." From the corner, Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. She saved my life. If you want a statement, take mine. Clara Torres is not guilty of anything except surviving an attack orchestrated by my enemies." The detective's eyes flicked to him, unimpressed. "Mr. Harrington, your reputation makes you a questionable witness at best. You have everything to gain by protecting her." Ethan's jaw clenched. "And everything to lose. Don't mistake me for a man who lies to protect himself." Hours dragged on. By the time they were released, the damage was done. Cameras outside the station broadcast every second live. Clara shielding her face. Ethan gripping her hand protectively. The headlines wrote themselves. "Clara Torres, questioned in attempted murder investigation. Billionaire defends waitress wife against police scrutiny." At the penthouse that night, Clara collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "This is it, Ethan. They're not just trying to ruin me anymore. They're trying to lock me away." He crouched in front of her, tilting her chin up. "Then I'll burn the city down before I let them take you." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "You can't fight the law. Not even you." Ethan's voice dropped raw. "Watch me." The next morning, Ethan walked into Harrington Enterprises not as a businessman, but as a storm. He called in every favor, every lawyer, every investigator money could buy. "Find the original footage," he ordered. "Get me every security feed from that night. If they altered the photo, prove it." Directors tried to intervene. "Ethan, you're throwing resources at a lost cause. The shareholders are demanding." "Let them demand," he snapped. "I don't answer to cowards." For the first time, the board fell silent. Meanwhile, Clara visited her mother in the hospital, escorted by guards. She sat by her bedside, whispering, "They might take me away, Mom." Her mother's frail hand squeezed hers. "You did nothing wrong. Truth will come." Clara bit back tears. "What if it doesn't? What if truth isn't enough?" Her mother's gaze softened, full of quiet strength. "Then you hold on to love, because love outlasts lies." Clara swallowed hard. The word felt foreign. Love. Yet when she thought of Ethan, his eyes blazing with fury in her defense, his hands steadying her when she shook, her heart trembled. That night, Ethan returned with news. He dropped a file onto the table. "We found something. Security footage. It proves the intruder fired first." Clara's heart leapt. "Then we can show the police." "Not so fast," Ethan cut in, jaw tight. "The footage was stolen before we could secure it. Someone inside leaked it." Her hope crashed. "Then it's useless." Ethan's voice darkened. "Not useless. It tells me Meredith isn't working alone. She has allies on the inside. And that means this is bigger than we thought." The next morning, Clara was summoned again. This time, not for questioning. For arraignment. Charges: manslaughter with a firearm. The courtroom buzzed as she walked in. Chains around her wrists, guards on either side. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed. The world was watching her fall. Ethan sat in the front row, eyes burning with fury and helplessness. When Clara turned and met his gaze, her heart clenched. She wanted to be strong, but all she saw in his face was the truth she hadn't admitted aloud yet. She wasn't just his fake wife anymore. She was the woman he couldn't afford to lose. The courthouse was a fortress that morning. Reporters lined the marble steps. Cameras flashing as Clara was escorted inside. Wrists bound in cold steel cuffs. She kept her eyes forward, but she could feel every stare, every whisper. "That's her, the gold digger. She killed a man to keep her secret. Waitress to murderess." The words clawed at her skin. Inside, the courtroom smelled of varnished wood and stale paper. Rows of strangers packed the benches. hungry for a spectacle. At the front, the judge adjusted his glasses, his face unreadable. Clara sat at the defense table, her hands trembling in her lap. She wanted to disappear. Instead, she felt the world's eyes drilling into her. Ethan sat just feet away, behind the railing, his presence a burning constant. His jaw was locked, his suit sharp, his eyes unflinching. But beneath the polished exterior, his fists clenched so tight, his knuckles blanched. The prosecutor rose first, a tall man with slicked hair and a voice that carried with ease. He paced in front of the jury, holding up a glossy print of the doctored photo. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you see here is not an act of self-defense." His voice dripped with confidence. "What you see is intent. A young woman, married into power under suspicious circumstances, standing over a man with a firearm. The supposed intruder? No gun was recovered at the scene. No evidence of him firing first. Only her." Clara's heart slammed. "That's not true. He had a gun." The prosecutor leaned closer to the jury, his voice lowering. Clara Torres had motive. She was a waitress from nowhere, suddenly elevated to the wife of a billionaire. But that position was threatened, wasn't it? Scandals, whispers, a collapsing empire. So she did what opportunists do, she eliminated the threat. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. The jury shifted uneasily. Clara's breath caught. They believe him. Her lawyer, a well-dressed but weary man, rose to counter. "Your Honor, the prosecution presents only doctored evidence, spread by media outlets controlled by Mr. Harrington's rivals. There were multiple eyewitnesses to the attack, including Mr. Harrington himself, who will testify." The prosecutor cut in sharply. "Yes, Mr. Harrington. A man with billions at stake. A man who benefits directly if the so-called victim of this case is silenced. Are we to take his word over photographic proof?" The jury's eyes darted to Ethan. He stared back, unblinking, defiant. When the first witness was called a security guard from that night, Clara held her breath. "Tell the court what you saw," the prosecutor instructed. The guard hesitated. There was confusion. "Shots fired. I can't say for certain who fired first." "Exactly," the prosecutor said smoothly, turning to the jury. "Uncertainty. But the photo," he held it up again. "The photo is clear." Clara's stomach dropped. The one piece of proof they had twisted against her. Her lawyer attempted to salvage. "You can't rely on an image without context." But the judge banged the gavel. "Counsel, save it for closing." Hours blurred. Witness after witness painted her as reckless, dangerous, unstable. Every truth she remembered was drowned beneath layers of manipulation. By the time the judge called for recess, Clara sat motionless, numb. She leaned close to her lawyer, whispering, "We're losing." He sighed, avoiding her eyes. "It's uphill. Without the missing footage, it's their word against doctored images. And the jury loves a story." She slumped back, despair wrapping around her like chains. During the break, Ethan slipped past guards to reach her. His voice was low, urgent. "Don't let them break you." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "They already have. I'm going to prison, Ethan." "Number." His voice was fierce, his hand gripping hers across the table. "You're not." Her voice cracked. "How can you be so sure?" He leaned closer, eyes burning. "Because I'll tear down this entire system before I let them take you." Back in session, the prosecutor made his move. He called Clara herself to the stand. Gasps rippled. Her lawyer objected, but the judge allowed it. Clara's knees wobbled as she walked to the witness chair. The oath felt heavy on her tongue. The prosecutor approached, slow and deliberate. "Miss Torres, or should I say Mrs. Harrington, tell us, why did you really marry Ethan Harrington?" Her throat tightened. She glanced at Ethan. His eyes urged her. "Tell the truth." I married him under a contract," she admitted, voice trembling. "It was supposed to be fake." The courtroom erupted in gasps. Reporters scribbled furiously. The prosecutor's smile widened. "So it wasn't love. It was business. A scheme." "No!" Clara's voice cracked, louder now. "It started that way, but it's not anymore." The prosecutor's brow arched. "Not anymore? How convenient. When did it change, Mrs. Harrington? Before or after you shot a man?" Her hands trembled on the stand. I didn't want to shoot him. He was coming for us. He had a gun. Where is it then? The prosecutor pressed, eyes glittering. Where is this mysterious gun? Her silence stretched. The jury shifted, doubt etched into their faces. Ethan shot to his feet. Enough. The judge slammed his gavel. Mr. Harrington, sit down. But Ethan ignored him, stepping into the well of the court. His voice thundered. You want the truth? Clara Torres is the reason I'm alive. She had every chance to run, every chance to save herself, but she didn't. She stood her ground when men like me would have crumbled. You call her a liar? A schemer? She's the only honest person in this room. The courtroom roared with murmurs. The prosecutor smirked. See, ladies and gentlemen, a billionaire defending his investment. But Ethan's voice cut sharper, raw. Number, I'm defending the woman I love. Clara froze. Her breath hitched, the world tilting beneath her. Love. He said it aloud. In front of everyone, the judge banged his gavel furiously. Mr. Harrington, another outburst, and I'll hold you in contempt. But Clara barely heard. Her heart raced, her chest aching as Ethan's words echoed. Love. The prosecutor adjusted his tie, unshaken. How touching. But declarations of love don't erase the facts. The jury will decide based on evidence, not emotions. He turned, flashing the doctored photo again. And the evidence condemns her. The jury's eyes lingered on the image. On her, Clara felt the walls closing in. And in that moment, she realized unless they uncovered the missing footage, unless someone proved Meredith's hand in all this, she would not leave this courtroom free. Outside, as the judge adjourned for the day, the crowd of reporters surged forward, microphones thrust like weapons. Clara, is it true you married for money? Ethan, do you love her, or are you lying to save your empire? Clara lowered her head, Ethan's hand steady at her back. But inside, she was breaking. Because for the first time, she saw the possibility that scared her more than prison. Not that the world would condemn her, but that Ethan would lose everything trying to save her. The next morning, the courtroom was standing room only. News vans lined the street. Commentators whispered that today would be decisive. Clara sat at the defense table, her palms clammy. The chains were gone, but the invisible weight of judgment remained. Every glance from the jury burned into her skin. Ethan sat behind her again, his presence a shield. She hadn't looked him in the eyes since yesterday, since his words had shaken her world. I'm defending the woman I love. Her heart still stumbled at the memory. Love wasn't supposed to be part of this deal. And yet, it had slipped in, raw and undeniable. The judge entered, his gavel striking. Court is in session. The prosecutor rose. Your Honor, the prosecution calls a surprise witness, Meredith Van Doren. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Clara's stomach knotted. Ethan's jaw clenched. Meredith swept in like she owned the place designer suit flawless, hair perfectly sculpted, heels clicking with confidence. She took the oath with a practiced smile, her gaze flicking to Ethan for just a second too long. Miss Van Doren, the prosecutor began smoothly. Tell the court your connection to the defendant. Meredith leaned forward, voice silky. She was a waitress. I was a board member. We lived in different worlds, until she decided to invade mine. Clara stiffened. And what do you mean by that? The prosecutor pressed. Meredith smiled wider. She seduced Ethan Harrington, manipulated him, convinced him to marry her under false pretenses, and when she realized I was close to exposing her, she tried to eliminate anyone who stood in her way. The words landed like blades, the jury murmured. Ethan surged forward, but Clara's lawyer grabbed his arm. Don't, he hissed. You'll make it worse. Then Meredith produced a USB drive. I brought proof. The prosecutor handed it to the clerk. Moments later, a video played on the screen. Grainy footage. Clara in the safe house. The attacker entering. But in this version, the first shot came from her gun, not his. Clara's blood ran cold. That's fake. That's not what happened. The prosecutor folded his arms smugly. The jury can see for themselves. No gun in his hand. No threat. Just Clara Torres pulling the trigger. The jury's faces hardened. Her lawyer objected furiously, demanding forensic review. But the judge allowed it as provisional evidence. Clara sat frozen, her world tilting. Meredith's eyes glinted with triumph. When cross-examined, Meredith played innocent. "Do you hate Clara Torres?" the defense asked. "Hate?" Meredith laughed lightly. "Number pity, maybe. She doesn't belong in our world, and now the world sees that too." Ethan finally snapped, standing in the gallery. "You liar!" His voice boomed across the chamber. "This is your doing. You orchestrated every attack, every leak." The judge banged his gavel. "Mr. Harrington, sit down or you'll be removed." But Ethan's glare never left Meredith, and her smile never wavered. By recess, Clara's heart had shattered. She sat alone in the holding room, whispering to herself, "It's over. I'm finished. They'll never believe me now." When Ethan entered, she didn't look up. "Clara, don't," she choked out. "Don't tell me it'll be okay. You saw the jury. You saw their faces." He crouched beside her, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then we changed their faces. We changed the story." Her voice cracked. "How?" "Meredith owns the story. She controls everything." Not everything." His voice softened. "She doesn't control us. And I swear, I will prove her lies if it's the last thing I do." Her eyes filled. She wanted to believe him. But belief was a dangerous thing. When court reconvened, the defense tried to dismantle Meredith's credibility, but she danced through every question with elegance. The jury was enthralled. And then, just as the defense was floundering, someone stood up in the back row. "I have evidence," a voice called. The judge banged his gavel. "Order! Identify yourself." A man in a rumpled jacket stepped forward, clutching a folder. His voice shook, but carried. "Name's Daniel Reed. I'm an IT contractor. I was hired to doctor that video." "Oh." The courtroom gasped. Clara's head snapped up. Ethan's eyes widened. The prosecutor stammered. "This is highly irregular." But the judge raised a hand. "Mr. Reed, approach the bench." Daniel handed over the folder. "This is the original file, the one before Meredith paid me to alter it." All eyes swiveled to Meredith. For the first time, her smile faltered. The video was played again this time, unedited. It showed the intruder breaking in, gun raised, firing first. Clara ducking, Ethan shielding her. And only then, Clara picking up the dropped weapon and firing back. The courtroom buzzed like a hive. The jury leaned forward, faces shifting with dawning clarity. The prosecutor paled. Meredith's eyes darted, calculating. Clara's chest heaved. The truth. Finally the truth. Ethan's hand tightened into a fist, victory and rage burning together. But the moment was fragile. The prosecutor scrambled. "This is outrageous. A random man walking in with supposed evidence? We need verification, chain of custody." The judge nodded grimly. "Agreed. The court will review authenticity." Still, the seed was planted. The jury had seen it. The story had changed. As Meredith exited the witness stand, her composure cracked for the first time. She brushed past Ethan, hissing under her breath. "This isn't over." He leaned close, voice lethal. "It is for you." That night, Clara sat with Ethan in the penthouse, exhausted but lighter. That man. Daniel. Why would he risk everything to come forward? Ethan's gaze darkened. Because lies always rot, and the people who spread them can't silence everyone. Clara exhaled, tears sliding free. "For the first time, I feel like maybe I can breathe again." Ethan touched her hand. "Breathe, and trust me, we're not done fighting." Her heart raced at his touch, at his certainty, but outside, unseen, Meredith made her next move. Her phone pressed to her ear, her voice sharp. "If the courts won't bury her, then find another way." The night after court, Ethan's penthouse was eerily quiet. Clara sat curled on the sofa, a blanket around her shoulders. For the first time in weeks, there had been a glimmer of hope. The jury had seen the unedited video. For a moment, the truth was winning. But Ethan paced the room like a lion. His phone buzzed, and when he answered, his face hardened. "What do you mean Daniel's gone missing?" His voice dropped, dangerous. "Find him, now." Clara's head snapped up. "Missing?" Ethan hung up, his eyes dark. Meredith's making her move. The next morning, the headlines screamed again. "Star witness vanishes overnight. Case against Clara Torres crumbles without evidence. Clara's stomach twisted. They'll say I had him silenced. They'll use this against me. Ethan gripped her shoulders. We'll find him. And we'll end this once and for all. Hours later, Ethan's private investigator traced Daniel to a motel on the outskirts of the city. They drove there in silence, tension heavy in the air. When they arrived, the door was ajar. Inside, the room was trashed, papers scattered, furniture overturned. Daniel sat on the floor, bruised and shaken. They came for me, he rasped. Told me to disappear, to destroy the files. Clara knelt beside him, her voice trembling. Why didn't you? Daniel looked up, tears brimming. Because I couldn't live with the lie anymore. I doctored that video, and it almost ruined you. I had to make it right. Ethan crouched low, his voice sharp but steady. Then let's finish this. Do you still have the files? Daniel nodded weakly, reaching under the mattress. He pulled out a flash drive. The original, untouched. Clara's chest tightened with relief. This could save me. But Daniel shook his head. Only if it makes it to the court. Meredith has people everywhere. The following day, the courtroom was tense. Rumors swirled about Daniel's disappearance. The prosecutor smirked, ready to declare the witness unreliable. But when the defense called Daniel Reed to the stand, gasps echoed through the chamber. Bruised, limping, but alive he walked forward, clutching the drive. This, he said, voice hoarse, is the unaltered truth. The judge examined the files. Forensic experts confirmed authenticity. The jury watched, stunned, as the video played once more clear, undeniable. The intruder's gun, the first shot. Clara's terrified face as she fired back, only to survive. Silence filled the room. The truth was no longer a whisper, it was thunder. The prosecutor sputtered, scrambling for words. This doesn't prove, but the judge cut him off, voice firm. It proves self-defense. It proves this court has been manipulated. His gaze turned cold toward Meredith, seated smugly in the gallery. And it raises questions about who orchestrated it. Meredith's smile faltered. Cameras turned to her, reporters scribbling furiously. For the first time, Clara saw fear in Meredith's eyes. The jury deliberated for only an hour. When they returned, the foreman stood tall. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. Clara's breath broke. Her knees buckled, and Ethan was there, catching her in his arms. The courtroom erupted, half in outrage, half in applause. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "I'm free?" Ethan's voice cracked, rough with emotion. "You're free." Outside, reporters swarmed. Clara blinked against the flashing lights, but this time, she didn't hide. "I was painted as a liar, a murderer, a fraud," she said, voice steady. "But the truth came out, and the truth always matters, even if it takes everything to bring it forward." The crowd hushed. For the first time, she wasn't a victim of their headlines. She was rewriting them. Later, at the hospital, Clara sat by her mother's side, holding her hand. "It's over, Mom. I can finally breathe again." Her mother smiled faintly. "I told you, truth finds its way." Her gaze shifted to Ethan, standing quietly in the doorway. "And love, too." Clara's cheeks warmed. She glanced at Ethan, heart fluttering. That night, on the penthouse balcony, the city lights sprawled beneath them. Ethan poured 2 glasses of wine, handing one to her. "To freedom," he said softly. Clara smiled, the glass trembling in her hand. "And to love." Ethan's eyes searched hers. "Clara." What started as a deal, what began as a lie, became the only truth I've ever wanted. Her breath caught. "Ethan?" He stepped closer, his voice raw. "I love you, not for saving me, not for standing by me, but because you showed me who I could be. A man who finally knows what matters." Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "And I love you. Not for your money, not for your name, but for the man who never gave up on me when the world wanted me gone." Their lips met gentle at first, then certain, sealing the vow neither of them had planned, but both had longed for. The next morning, headlines blazed again. Clara Torres, from waitress to wrongfully accused, now free. Billionaire Harrington stands by her side. But for Clara, none of that mattered anymore. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't defined by whispers or chains, or fear. She was defined by truth, by love, by her own voice. And as Ethan held her close, the city waking beneath them, she realized the greatest fortune she had ever gained wasn't money or freedom. It was him,